in the hills of Ephraim, when Israel lived dark days under the government of the judges. An extraordinary story was about to begin. It was a time where each one did what seemed good to him. But God had a plan. Through the pain of a woman without children, the Lord was going to change forever the destiny of his people. This is the story of how Samuel was born, the last great judge of Israel, and how his life marked the end of an era and the beginning of another completely new. There was a man named Elkanah who lived in Ramathaim of Sophim, in the mountainous region of Ephraim. Each year, as the first chapter of 1 Samuel tells us, this man went up from his city to worship and offer sacrifices to the Lord in Shiloh. Elkanah had 2 wives, Hannah and Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah did not have any. The pain of Hannah was deep and constant. In those times, not having children was considered a curse, and Hannah carried with this sadness day after day. Her rival Peninnah provoked her constantly, reminding her of her sterility. Verse 6 of chapter 1 tells us that her rival irritated her, angering her and saddening her because Jehovah had made her sterile. Elkanah loved Hannah and tried to comfort her. He gave her a special portion when they offered sacrifices and said to her, "Hannah, why do you cry? Why do you not eat? Why is your heart afflicted? Do not I am better to you than 10 children?" But the heart of Hannah kept broken. One day, after eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah got up and went to the temple of the Lord. Eli, the priest, was seated on a chair next to one of the posts of the temple. Hannah was so anguished that she began to pray with a desperation that she had never felt before. Verse 10 describes her state. She, with bitterness of soul, prayed to Jehovah and cried abundantly. In her desperate prayer, Hannah made a promise that would change the history of Israel. She said to God, "Jehovah of hosts, if you will deign to look at the affliction of your servant, and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give to your servant a male child, I will dedicate him to Jehovah all the days of his life, and a razor will not pass over his head." Hannah prayed in silence, moving only the lips. Eli observed her and thought that she was drunk. He said to her, "Until when will you be drunk? Digest your wine." But Hannah responded to him with respect, "No, my Lord, I am a troubled woman of spirit. I have not drunk wine nor cider, but I have poured out my soul before Jehovah. Do not take your servant for an impious woman, because by the magnitude of my sorrows and my affliction, I have spoken until now." Eli understood that this woman spoke seriously. He said to her, "Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you the petition that you have made to him." Hannah went away tranquil, and no longer was sad. The next day, the family worshipped before the Lord and returned to her house in Ramah. God heard the prayer of Hannah. She conceived and gave birth to a son. She put by name Samuel, explaining, "For how much I asked him, Jehovah." When the boy was weaned, Hannah fulfilled her promise. She took Samuel to the temple together with sacrifices and delivered him to Eli, saying, "Oh, my Lord, your soul lives. My Lord, I am that woman who was here next to you praying to Jehovah. For this boy I prayed, and Jehovah gave me what I asked him. I then dedicate him also to Jehovah. All the days that he lives, he will be of Jehovah." When Hannah delivered her son Samuel to the service of the Lord, her heart filled with a joy so great that she could not contain it. The second chapter of 1 Samuel shows us how this mother expressed her gratitude to God with words that went much further than her personal situation. Hannah began her canticle saying, "My heart rejoices in Jehovah. My power is exalted in Jehovah. My mouth widened over my enemies. For as much I rejoiced in your salvation." Her joy was not only for having a son, but for knowing a God who hears and responds. Her words continued revealing deep truths about the character of God. There is no saint like Jehovah. because there is none outside of you, and there is no refuge like our God." Hannah understood that what had happened in her life showed something much bigger about who is God. The Canticle of Hannah spoke of how God changes situations. She said, "The bows of the strong were broken, and the weak girded themselves with power. The full hired themselves for bread, and the hungry stopped having hunger, until the sterile has given birth to 7, and she who had many children languishes." Hannah knew that God controls everything that happens in the earth. She sang, "Jehovah kills and he gives life. He makes descend to Sheol and makes ascend. Jehovah impoverishes and he enriches, abases and exalts. He raises from the dust to the poor, and from the dunghill exalts the needy, to make him sit with princes and inherit a place of honor." Her words also looked toward the future of Israel, without knowing it completely. Hannah was prophesying about the kings who would come. Jehovah will judge the confines of the earth, will give power to his king, and will exalt the might of his anointed. This was the first time in the Bible that someone spoke of the anointed of God, word that in Hebrew is Messiah. After this beautiful canticle, Hannah returned to her house, but Samuel stayed in the temple to serve the Lord under the care of Eli. The boy grew, and each year, when his parents came to offer the annual sacrifice, his mother brought him a small tunic that she had made for him. God blessed Hannah for her fidelity. Eli blessed Elkanah and his wife, saying, "May Jehovah give you children of this woman in place of the one that she asked for Jehovah." And so it was. Hannah had 3 more children and 2 daughters. Meanwhile, the young Samuel grew before the Lord. While Samuel grew in holiness and favor before God, a very different situation was happening with the sons of the priest Eli. The same chapter 2 tells us a sad story about Hophni and Phinehas, the 2 sons of Eli, who also served as priests. These men were wicked and did not know the Lord. They had converted the holy place into a site of corruption and abuse. When people came to offer sacrifices, the sons of Eli did not respect the laws that God had given about how the offerings should be made. The correct custom was that when someone offered a sacrifice, the priest could take a certain part after the fat was burned for the Lord. But Hophni and Phinehas sent a servant with a 3-toothed fork so that he would take meat from the cauldron while the sacrifice was still being cooked. Worse still, sometimes they demanded the raw meat before the fat was burned for God. If someone protested and stated, "Let first the fat burn and afterwards take what you want," the servant responded, "No, but now you must give it. Otherwise I will take it by force." Verse 17 tells us that the sin of the young men was very great before Jehovah, because the men less prized the offerings of Jehovah. But their wickedness did not end there. These men also abused the women who served in the tabernacle. They lay with the women who watched at the door of the tabernacle of meeting, converting the sacred place into a site of immorality. Eli, already elderly, heard everything that his sons did. He said to them, "Why do you make such things? Because I hear of all this people your bad procedures." "No, my sons, because it is not good fame, the one that I hear. Well, you make sin the people of Jehovah. If the man sins against the man, the judges will judge him. But if someone sins against Jehovah, who will pray for him?" But the sons of Eli did not listen to the voice of their father. Verse 25 tells us that they did not hear the voice of their father because Jehovah had resolved to make them die. In the middle of this corruption, Samuel kept growing and pleasing as much to God as to the people. The contrast was evident. While the sons of Eli brought dishonor to the holy place, the boy Samuel served with purity and dedication. One day, a man of God came to Eli, and with a terrible message. He reminded him how God had chosen the family of Aaron to be priests and had given them the privilege of serving at the altar. But now Eli had honored his sons more than God, permitting that they fatten themselves with the best of the offerings of the people. The message of God was clear. Therefore, Jehovah, the God of Israel, says, I had said that your house and the house of your father would walk before me perpetually. But now has said Jehovah, never I such do, because I will honor those who honor me, and those who despise me will be held in little. God announced that both sons of Eli would die in a same day, and that he would raise a faithful priest who would do according to his heart and his soul. The era of the family of Eli as priests was arriving at its end. The young Samuel served the Lord before Eli in those days. As chapter 3 tells us, the word of the Lord was very rare, and there were no frequent visions. It was a time of spiritual silence in Israel. But God was about to break that silence in a surprising way. One night, Samuel was sleeping in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, which means that it was very early in the dawn. Suddenly, Samuel heard a voice that called him, Samuel, Samuel. The boy got up quickly and ran toward Eli, thinking that the elderly priest had called him. Here I am, he said to him. For what did you call me? But Eli responded to him, I have not called. Return and lie down. Samuel returned and lay down, but the Lord called again, Samuel, once more. The young man got up and went where Eli, saying, Here I am. For what have you called me? Eli said to him again, My son, I have not called. Return and lie down. Samuel did not yet know the Lord personally, and the word of the Lord had not been revealed to him yet. For third time, the Lord called Samuel. The boy got up one more time and went to Eli, saying, Here I am. For what have you called me? Then Eli understood that it was the Lord who called the boy. He said to Samuel, Go and lie down, and if he calls you, you will say, Speak, Jehovah, because your servant hears. Samuel went and lay down in his place. The Lord came and stood near and called like the other times, Samuel, Samuel. This time Samuel responded as Eli had taught, Speak, because your servant hears. The message that God gave to Samuel was very serious. He said, Behold, I will do a thing in Israel, that to whoever hears it, both ears will tingle. That day I will fulfill against him, and all the things that I have said about his house, from the beginning until the end. And I will show him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity that he knows, because his sons have blasphemed God, and he has not hindered them. Therefore, I have sworn to the house of Eli, that the iniquity of the house of Eli will not be expiated ever, neither with sacrifices nor with offerings. Samuel stayed lying down until the morning, and then opened the doors of the house of the Lord. He had fear to tell Eli the vision that he had received, but Eli called him and said to him, Samuel, my son. Samuel responded, Here I am. Eli asked him, What is the word that he spoke to you? I beg you that you do not cover it from me. So may God do to you, and so may he add to you, if you cover from me a word of all the ones that he spoke with you. Samuel told him everything and did not cover from him anything. Eli heard the message and responded, Jehovah is, do what seems good to him. The elderly priest accepted the judgment of God on his family. From that day, Samuel grew and the Lord was with him. He did not let fall to the ground any of his words. All Israel, from Dan until Beersheba, knew that Samuel was a faithful prophet of the Lord. The Lord appeared again in Shiloh, because he manifested himself to Samuel in Shiloh by his word. The days of judgment that God had announced arrived faster than expected. Chapter 4 tells us how Israel entered into war against the Philistines, their most powerful enemies. The Israelites encamped next to Ebenezer, while the Philistines encamped in Aphek. The Philistines put themselves in battle order against Israel, and when the fight began, Israel was defeated. The Philistines killed about 4,000 men of the army in the field of battle. When the people returned to the camp, the elders of Israel asked themselves, "Why has Jehovah smitten us today before the Philistines?" Then someone had an idea that seemed good, but that showed how far the people were from understanding God. They said, "Let us bring to us from Shiloh the ark of the covenant of Jehovah, so that coming among us it may save us from the hand of our enemies." They sent messengers to Shiloh and brought the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, who dwells between the cherubim. The two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, came with the ark of the covenant of God. When the ark arrived at the camp, all Israel shouted with such force that the earth trembled. The Philistines heard the voice of the shout and asked, "What voice of great shouting is this in the camp of the Hebrews?" When they knew that the ark of the Lord had arrived at the camp, they had fear. The Philistines said, "God has come to the camp," and they exclaimed, "Woe to us! Well, before now it was not like this. Woe to us! Who will deliver us from the hand of these powerful gods? These are the gods that smote Egypt with all plague in the desert. Strive yourselves, O Philistines, and be men, so that you do not serve the Hebrews as they have served you. Be men and fight." But the Philistines fought with desperation, and the defeat of Israel was even worse than the first time. The Philistines killed 30,000 men on foot of Israel. The people fled, each one to his tent. The defeat was terrible, but the worst was yet to come. The Philistines captured the ark of God. In that battle died the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, exactly as God had announced. A man of Benjamin ran from the field of battle and arrived at Shiloh the same day with his clothes broken and dirt on his head in sign of mourning. When he arrived, all the city shouted. Eli heard the sound of the shout and asked, "What means the sound of this uproar?" The man approached quickly and told Eli what had happened. Eli had 98 years, and his eyes had darkened, so that he could not see. The messenger said to him, "I come from the army. I have fled today from the field of battle." Eli asked, "What has happened, my son?" The one who brought the news responded, "Israel fled before the Philistines, and also was made great slaughter in the people. And also your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were killed, and the ark of God was taken." When the man mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell backwards from the chair by the side of the door, broke his neck, and died. Because he was an old and heavy man, he had judged Israel during 40 years. The wife of Phinehas was pregnant and close to giving birth when she heard that the ark of God had been taken and that her father-in-law and her husband had died. She bowed and gave birth because her pains came upon her. At the time that she was dying, the ones who stood next to her said to her, "Do not have fear, because you have given birth to a son." But she did not respond, nor did she give herself by entered. She called the boy Ichabod, saying, "Past is the glory of Israel for having been taken the ark of God, and for the death of her father-in-law and of her husband." She said, "Past is the glory of Israel, because has been taken the ark of God." With these words, the era of Eli arrived at its end. The ark of God, the most sacred symbol of Israel, was now in hands of its enemies. The Philistines took the ark of God from Ebenezer until Ashdod. As chapter 5 tells us, when they arrived at Ashdod, they took the ark and put it in the temple of Dagon, their god, next to the statue of Dagon. The next day, The ones of Ashdod got up early and found something that filled them with terror. Dagon had fallen on his face before the ark of the Lord. They took Dagon and put him back in his place. But upon getting up early, the following morning, they found again Dagon fallen on his face before the ark of the Lord. This time was worse. The head of Dagon and the 2 palms of his hands were cut off over the threshold, and only the trunk of Dagon had stayed. The hand of the Lord aggravated on the ones of Ashdod, destroyed them and smote them with tumors, as much to Ashdod as to its territories. When the men of Ashdod saw what happened, they said, "Do not stay with us the ark of the God of Israel, because his hand is hard on us and on our god Dagon." They convened all the princes of the Philistines and asked them, "What shall we do with the ark of the God of Israel?" The princes responded, "Let the ark of the God of Israel pass to Gath." And they took there the ark of the God of Israel. But after they took it, the hand of the Lord came against the city with great breaking. He smote the men of the city from the least until the greatest, and they had tumors in their secret parts. Then they sent the ark of God to Ekron. When the ark arrived at Ekron, the Ekronites shouted, saying, "They have passed to us the ark of the God of Israel to kill us and our people." The Ekronites sent to call all the princes of the Philistines and said, "Return the ark of the God of Israel, and let it return to its place, so that it does not kill us nor our people." Because there was panic of death in all the city, and the hand of God had aggravated there. The men who did not die were smitten with tumors, and the shout of the city went up to the sky. The ark of the Lord had been in the land of the Philistines during 7 months, and in each place where they took it, it brought destruction and terror. No Philistine god could make front to the power of the God of Israel. The Philistines, who had felt victorious upon capturing the ark, now only wanted to get rid of it as fast as possible. After 7 months of suffering, the Philistines no longer could endure having the ark of the God of Israel among them. As chapter 6 tells us, they called the priests and diviners and asked them, "What shall we do with the ark of Jehovah? Declare to us how we are to return it to its place." The priests and diviners responded, "If you send the ark of the God of Israel, do not send it empty, but pay to it the atonement. Then you will be healed, and will know why his hand did not depart from you." The Philistines asked, "And what will be the atonement that we will pay to it?" They responded, "According to the number of the princes of the Philistines, 5 gold tumors and 5 gold mice, because a same plague has afflicted all of you and your princes." They made figures of their tumors and figures of the mice that destroyed the land and gave glory to the God of Israel. They said, "Perhaps he will alleviate his hand from upon you and from upon your gods and your land." The Philistines decided to make a test to know if really it was the God of Israel who had punished them. They said, "Make, well, now a new cart and take 2 cows that give milk, to which has not been put yoke, and hitch the cows to the cart, and take their calves from behind them home." They took the ark of the Lord, put it on the cart, and next to it, they put a box with the gold mice and the figures of their tumors. The cows directed themselves by the road of Beth Shemesh and went by the royal road, lowing as they walked, without turning nor to right nor to left. The princes of the Philistines went after them until the limit of Beth Shemesh. The ones of Beth Shemesh reaped the wheat in the valley, and raising the eyes saw the ark, and rejoiced upon seeing it. The cart arrived at the field of Joshua of Beth Shemesh, and stopped there where there was a great stone. They cut the wood of the cart, and offered the cows in burnt offering to the Lord. The Levites lowered the ark of the Lord, and the box that was next to it, in which were the jewels of gold, and put them on the great stone. The men of Beth Shemesh offered burnt offerings and sacrificed victims to the Lord in that day. When the 5 princes of the Philistines saw this, they returned to Ekron the same day. But not everything ended well in Beth Shemesh. God smote the men of Beth Shemesh because they had looked inside the ark of the Lord. He smote in the people 50,070 men. The people lamented because the Lord had smitten them with so great slaughter. The men of Beth Shemesh said, "Who will be able to stand before Jehovah, the holy God? And to whom will he go up from us?" They sent messengers to the inhabitants of Kiriath Jearim, saying, "The Philistines have returned the ark of Jehovah. Descend, well, and take it to you." The men of Kiriath Jearim came and took the ark of the Lord and put it in house of Abinadab in the hill. They sanctified Eliezer his son, so that he would guard the ark of the Lord. The ark had returned to land of Israel, but its journey had shown an important truth. The God of Israel could not be treated like any other god. His holiness demanded respect, and his power knew no limits. 20 years passed since the ark arrived at Kiriath Jearim. As chapters 7 and 8 tell us, all the house of Israel lamented after the Lord. The people had learned through suffering that they needed to return to the true God. Samuel spoke to all the house of Israel, saying, "If with all your heart you return to Jehovah, remove the foreign gods and Ashtaroth from among you, and prepare your heart to Jehovah, and only to him serve. And he will deliver you from the hand of the Philistines." The sons of Israel removed the Baals and Ashtaroth and served only the Lord. Samuel said, "Gather all Israel in Mizpah, and I will pray for you to the Lord." They gathered, in Mizpah, and drew water and poured it out before the Lord, and fasted that day. They said there, "Against Jehovah we have sinned." And Samuel judged the sons of Israel in Mizpah. When the Philistines heard that the sons of Israel were gathered in Mizpah, the princes of the Philistines went up against Israel. The sons of Israel knew it and had fear of the Philistines. The sons of Israel said to Samuel, "Do not cease to cry out for us to Jehovah our God, that he may save us from the hand of the Philistines." Samuel took a milk lamb and sacrificed it whole as a burnt offering to the Lord. Samuel cried out to the Lord for Israel, and the Lord heard him, while Samuel offered the burnt offering. The Philistines arrived to fight against Israel, but the Lord thundered that day with great uproar over the Philistines and frightened them, and they were vanquished before Israel. The men of Israel went out from Mizpah and followed the Philistines, smiting them until below Beth-kar. Then Samuel took a stone and put it between Mizpah and Shen, and put by name Ebenezer, saying, "Until here helped us Jehovah." Thus the Philistines were subdued and did not return more to enter into the territory of Israel. The hand of the Lord was against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. Samuel judged Israel all the days of his life. He went every year in circuit to Bethel, Gilgal, and Mizpah, and judged Israel in all these places. Afterwards he returned to Ramah, because there was his house, and there he judged Israel. He built there an altar to the Lord. But when Samuel aged, he put his sons for judges over Israel. The name of his firstborn son was Joel, and the name of the second Abijah. They judged in Beersheba. But the sons did not walk in the ways of their father, but turned after avarice, receiving bribe and perverting justice. Then all the elders of Israel gathered and came to Samuel in Ramah. They said to him, "Behold, you have aged, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Therefore, constitute to us now a king to judge us like all the nations have." But this word did not please Samuel, that they said, "Give us a king to judge us." Samuel prayed to the Lord, and the Lord said to Samuel, "Hear the people in everything that they say to you, because they have not rejected you, but me they have rejected, that I may not reign over them, according to all the works that they have done from the day that I brought them out of Egypt until today, leaving me and serving foreign gods. So they do also with you." The Lord said to Samuel, "Now hear their voice, but solemnly protest against them, and show them how the king who will reign over them will treat them." Samuel told all the words of the Lord to the people who had asked him for a king. He said, "This will be the right of the king who will reign over you. He will take your sons and will put them in his chariots and in his horsemen, so that they may run before his chariot. He will put them to himself for chiefs of thousands and of fifties, and so that they may plow his fields and reap his harvest, and so that they may make his weapons of war and the equipments of his chariots." Samuel continued explaining, "He will take also your daughters, so that they may be perfumers, cooks, and kneaders. Likewise, he will take the best of your fields, of your vineyards, and of your olive groves, and will give them to his servants. He will tenth your grain and your vineyards to give to his officers and to his servants." The prophet warned about more consequences. "He will take your men servants and your maid servants, your best young men and your donkeys, and with them will make his works. He will tenth also your flocks, and you will be his servants, and you will cry out that day because of your king, whom you will have chosen. But Jehovah will not respond to you in that day." But the people did not want to hear the voice of Samuel and said, "No, but there will be a king over us, and we will be also like all the nations. And our king will govern us, and will go out before us, and will make our wars." Samuel heard all the words of the people, and reported them in ears of the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, "Hear voice, and put a king for them." Then Samuel said to the men of Israel, "Go each one to your city." Thus ended the era of the judges in Israel. The people had rejected the direct government of God and had asked for a king like the rest of the nations. Samuel, the last great judge, would have to anoint the first king of Israel. A new era was about to begin, but it would not be without consequences. There was a man of Benjamin who was named Kish, son of Abiel, son of Zerah, son of Bechorath, son of Aphiah, son of a Benjamite. He was a valiant man. As chapter 9 of 1 Samuel tells us, this man had a son who was named Saul, young and handsome. Among the sons of Israel, there was not another more handsome than him. From shoulders upward, he surpassed any one of the people. One day, the donkeys of Kish, father of Saul, were lost. Kish said to his son Saul, "Take now with you one of the servants and get up and go look for the donkeys." Saul passed through the mount of Ephraim, through the land of Shalisha, but they did not find them. They passed then through the land of Shalim, and neither were they there. Afterwards, they passed through the land of Benjamin, and did not find them. When they arrived at the land of Suf, Saul said to his servant who came with him, "Come, let us return, lest my father stops thinking about the donkeys and worries about us." The servant responded to him, "Behold, now there is in this city a man of God who is very venerated. Everything that he says happens without fail. Let us go then there. Perhaps he will give us some indication about the object for which we undertook our journey." Saul responded to his servant, "Let us go now. But what shall we bring to the man? Because the bread of our saddlebags has finished, and we do not have what to offer to the man of God. What do we have?" The servant responded again to Saul, "Behold, there is found in my hand the fourth part of a shekel of silver. This will I give to the man of God, so that he may declare to us our way." Meanwhile, the day before Saul came, the Lord had revealed to the ear of Samuel, "Tomorrow, at this same time, I will send to you a man from the land of Benjamin, whom you will anoint for prince over my people Israel, and he will save my people from the hand of the Philistines. Because I have looked at my people, for as much as their cry has come up to me." When Samuel saw Saul, the Lord said to him, "Behold, this is the man of whom I spoke to you. This one will rule over my people." Saul approached Samuel in the middle of the gateway and said, "I beg you, teach me, where is the house of the seer?" Samuel responded to Saul, "I am the seer. Go up before me to the high place and eat today with me, and in the morning I will send you away, and will declare to you everything that is in your heart. And concerning the donkeys that were lost to you already 3 days ago, do not worry, because they have been found. But for whom is everything that is desirable in Israel, except for you and for all the house of your father? Saul responded, I am not I, son of Benjamin, of the smallest of the tribes of Israel, and my family is not the smallest of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin. Why then have you said to me similar thing? Samuel took Saul and his servant, introduced them into the hall, and gave them place at the head of the invited guests, who were as about 30 men. Samuel said to the cook, Bring here the portion that I gave you, which I told you to keep apart. The cook lifted then a shoulder with what was on it and put it before Saul. Samuel said, Behold what was reserved. Put it before you and eat, because for this occasion it was kept for you. When I said, I have invited the people. And Saul ate with Samuel that day, when they descended from the high place to the city. Samuel spoke with Saul on the roof. The other day they got up early, and Samuel shouted to Saul on the roof, Get up so that I may send you away. Saul got up, and both went outside, he and Samuel, as they descended to the extreme of the city. Samuel said to Saul, Tell the servant to go ahead. As chapter 10 continues telling us, when the servant went ahead, Samuel said, Wait you a little so that I may make you know word of God. Taking then Samuel a flask of oil, he poured it over the head of Saul and kissed him and said to him, Has not Jehovah anointed you for prince over his people Israel? You will reign over the people of Jehovah, and you will deliver them from the hand of their enemies around. And this will be to you for sign that Jehovah has anointed you for prince over his inheritance. Samuel gave him 3 signs to confirm that God really had chosen him. He said to him, When you have departed from me today, you will find 2 men next to the tomb of Rachel in the territory of Benjamin, in Zelzah, who will say to you, The donkeys that you had gone to look for have been found. And your father has left all readying to worry about the donkeys, and is worried about you, saying, What shall I do concerning my son? The second sign would be, From there you will follow further, and will arrive at the oak of Tabor. And there will come out to meet you 3 men going up to God in Bethel, carrying 3 kids, another 3 cakes of bread, and the third a vessel of wine, who as soon as they have greeted you, will give you 2 loaves, which you will take from their hands. The third sign would be the most impactful. After this, you will arrive at the hill of God, where the garrison of the Philistines is, and when you enter there into the city, you will find a company of prophets who descend from the high place, and before them psaltery, tambourine, flute, and harp, and they prophesying. Then the Spirit of Jehovah will come upon you with power, and you will prophesy with them, and will be changed into another man. Samuel added, And when these signs have happened to you, do what comes to your hand, because God is with you. Then you will descend before me to Gilgal, and immediately I will descend to you to offer burnt offerings and sacrifice peace offerings. 7 days you will wait until I come to you and teach you what you have to do. It happened that when Saul turned his back to depart from Samuel, God changed his heart. And all these signs happened in that day, when they arrived there to the hill. Behold, the company of prophets that came to meet him, and the Spirit of God came upon him with power, and he prophesied among them. All who knew him before, seeing that he prophesied with the prophets, said one to another, What has happened to the son of Kish? Is Saul also among the prophets? One from there responded, And who is the father of them? For this cause it was made a proverb, Also Saul among the prophets. When he ceased to prophesy, he arrived at the high place. The uncle of Saul said to him and to his servant, To where did you go? And he responded, To look for the donkeys. And as we saw that they did not appear, we went to Samuel. The uncle of Saul said to him, "I beg you declare to me what Samuel said to you." Saul responded to his uncle, "He declared to us expressly that the donkeys had been found. But of the matter of the kingdom of which Samuel had spoken to him, he did not discover anything to him." Samuel convened the people before the Lord in Mizpah and said to the sons of Israel, "Thus has said Jehovah, the God of Israel, I brought Israel out of Egypt and delivered you from the hand of the Egyptians and from the hand of all the kingdoms that oppressed you. But you have rejected today your God, who saves you from all your afflictions and anguists, and have said, 'No, but put a king over us.' Now well, present yourselves before Jehovah by your tribes and by your thousands." Samuel made all the tribes of Israel approach, and the tribe of Benjamin was taken. He made then the tribe of Benjamin approach by its lineages, and the lineage of Matri was taken, and from it was taken Saul, the son of Kish. They looked for him, but he was not found. They asked then again the Lord if yet had not come there that man. And the Lord responded, "Behold, that he has hidden himself among the baggage." Then they ran and brought him from there, and placed in the middle of the people, from the shoulders upward. He was taller than all the people. Samuel said to all the people, "Have you seen the one whom Jehovah has chosen, that there is not like him in all the people?" Then the people shouted with joy and said, "Long live the king." After this, as chapter 11 tells us, Saul returned to his house and kept working in the field like before. But soon he would have to demonstrate if really he was the leader that Israel needed. Nahash the Ammonite went up and put siege to Jabesh Gilead. All the men of Jabesh said to Nahash, "Make alliance with us and we will serve you." Nahash the Ammonite responded to them, "With this condition I will make alliance with you, that to each one of all of you I may pluck out the right eye and put this reproach over all Israel." The elders of Jabesh said to him, "Give us 7 days, so that we may send messengers through all the territory of Israel, and if there is no one who defends us, we will surrender to you." The messengers came to Gibeah of Saul and said these words in ears of the people. And all the people raised their voice and cried, "In that coming Saul of the field behind these oxen." And Saul said, "What has the people that they cry?" And they counted to him the words of the men of Jabesh. When Saul heard these words, the Spirit of God came upon him with power, and he burned in anger in great manner. He took a pair of oxen and cut them into pieces, and sent them through all the territory of Israel by means of messengers, saying, "Whoever does not go out after Samuel and after Saul, so shall it be done with his oxen." Fear of the Lord fell upon the people, and they went out as a one man. He counted them in Bezek, and the sons of Israel were 300,000 and 30,000, the men of Judah. They said to the messengers who had arrived, "Thus shall you say to the men of Jabesh of Gilead, tomorrow, when the sun warms, you shall have salvation." The messengers came and announced it to the men of Jabesh, which rejoiced. The men of Jabesh said to the Ammonites, "Tomorrow we will surrender to you so that you may do with us what seems good to you." It happened that on the next day Saul disposed the people in 3 squadrons, and they came to the camp in the morning, and smote the Ammonites until the day warmed, and the ones who remained were dispersed, in such manner that did not stay 2 of them together. The people said then to Samuel, "Who are the ones who said, 'Will Saul reign over us?' Give us those men, and we will kill them." Saul responded, "No man will die in this day, because today Jehovah has given salvation in Israel." Samuel said to the people, "Come, let us go to Gilgal so that we may renew there the kingdom." All the people went to Gilgal and proclaimed their king to Saul before the Lord in Gilgal. They offered their sacrifices of peace offerings before the Lord and rejoiced very much there, Saul and all the men of Israel. In Gilgal, as chapter 12 tells us, Samuel addressed all Israel. Behold, I have heard your voice in all the things that you have said to me, and I have set a king over you. And now, behold, your king goes before you. I am already old and am full of gray hair, but my sons are with you, and I have walked before you from my youth until this day. Samuel continued, Here I am. Testify against me before Jehovah and before his anointed. If I have taken the ox of anyone, or if I have taken the donkey of anyone, or if I have slandered someone, or if I have aggrieved someone, or if from someone I have taken bribe to blind my eyes with it, and I will restore it to you. They said, You have never slandered us, nor aggrieved us, nor have taken anything from hand of any man. He said to them, Jehovah is witness against you, and his anointed is also witness in this day, that you have not found anything in my hand. And they responded, So it is. Then Samuel said to the people, Jehovah is witness, who constituted Moses and Aaron, and who brought your fathers out of the land of Egypt. Now well, wait, and I will make you understand before Jehovah about all the acts of salvation that Jehovah has done with you and with your fathers. Samuel reminded them of the history of Israel, how Jacob entered into Egypt, how their fathers cried out to the Lord when the Egyptians oppressed them, how God sent Moses and Aaron to bring them out of Egypt, how they forgot the Lord, and he delivered them into hands of their enemies, and how one and another time they cried out to the Lord, and he sent them deliverers. But when you saw that Nahash, king of the sons of Ammon, came against you, you said to me, No, but a king has to reign over us, being so that Jehovah your God was your king. Now, well, behold the king whom you have chosen, whom you asked for. You already see that Jehovah has set a king over you. Samuel established the conditions. If you fear Jehovah and serve him, and hear his voice and are not rebellious to the word of Jehovah, as much you as the king who reigns over you will be after Jehovah your God. But if you do not hear the voice of Jehovah, and if you are rebellious to the words of Jehovah, the hand of Jehovah will be against you, as it was against your fathers, to demonstrate that his words came from God. Samuel said, Wait for an hour and see this great thing that Jehovah will do before your eyes. It is not now the reaping of the wheat. I will cry out to Jehovah, and he will give thunders and rain, so that you may know and see that your wickedness is great, which you have done before the eyes of Jehovah, asking a king for yourselves. Samuel cried out to the Lord, and the Lord gave thunders and rain in that day. And all the people had great fear of the Lord and of Samuel. All the people said to Samuel, Pray for your servants to Jehovah your God, that we may not die, because to all our sins we have added this evil of asking a king for ourselves. Samuel responded to the people, Do not fear, you have made all this evil. But with all that do not depart from after Jehovah, but serve him with all your heart. Do not depart after vanities, which do not profit nor deliver, because they are vanities, because Jehovah will not forsake his people for his great name, because Jehovah has wanted to make you his people. Samuel concluded, So far be it from me that I should sin against Jehovah, ceasing to pray for you. Rather, I will teach you the good and straight way. Only fear Jehovah and serve him in truth with all your heart. Well, consider what great things he has done for you. But if you persevere in doing evil, and your king will perish. With these words, Samuel passed officially the leadership to Saul, but also established clearly the divine expectations for the new king and the people. Saul had reigned 1 year when he faced his first great test as king. As chapter 13 tells us, Saul had 30 years when he began to reign and reigned 42 years over Israel. He chose for himself 3,000 men of Israel. The 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash and in the Mount of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan, his son, in Gibeah of Benjamin. And he sent all the rest of the people, each one, to their tents. Jonathan attacked the garrison of the Philistines that was in Geba, and the Philistines heard it. Saul made trumpets sound through all the land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." All Israel heard that it was said, "Saul has attacked the garrison of the Philistines," and also that Israel had made itself odious to the Philistines. And the people gathered after Saul in Gilgal. The Philistines gathered to fight against Israel. 30,000 chariots, 6,000 horsemen and people numerous like the sand that is at the shore of the sea. And they went up and encamped in Michmash, to the east of Beth-aven, when the men of Israel saw that they were in strait, because the people were in distress. They hid themselves in caves, in pits, in crags, in rocks, and in cisterns. Some of the Hebrews crossed the Jordan to the land of Gad and of Gilead, but Saul remained still in Gilgal, and all the people followed him, trembling. He waited 7 days, according to the term that Samuel had said. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people deserted from him. Then said Saul, "Bring me burnt offering and peace offerings." And he offered the burnt offering. When he finished offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel who came, and Saul went out to meet him, to greet him. Samuel said to him, "What have you done?" Saul responded, "Because I saw that the people deserted from me, and that you did not come within the appointed term, and that the Philistines were gathered in Michmash. I said to yourself, 'Now the Philistines will descend against me to Gilgal,' and I have not implored the favor of Jehovah. I forced myself, and offered burnt offering." Then Samuel said to Saul, "Foolishly you have done. You did not keep the commandment of Jehovah your God, which he had ordered you. Well, now Jehovah would have confirmed your kingdom over Israel forever. But now your kingdom will not be durable. Jehovah has sought for himself a man according to his heart, to whom Jehovah has designated to be prince over his people. For as much as you have not kept what Jehovah commanded you." Samuel got up then, and went up from Gilgal to Gibeah of Benjamin. Saul counted the people who were found with him as 600 men, Saul and Jonathan, his son, and the people who were found with them stayed in Gibeah of Benjamin. But the Philistines had encamped in Michmash. Despite the judgment pronounced by Samuel, the war against the Philistines continued, as chapter 14 tells us. One day Jonathan, son of Saul, said to the young man who carried his weapons, "Come, let us pass to the garrison of the Philistines that is on that side." But he did not make it known to his father. Saul was at the extreme of Gibeah, under a pomegranate tree that is in Migron, and the people who were with him were as 600 men. Ahijah, son of Ahitub, brother of Ichabod, son of Phinehas, son of Eli, priest of Jehovah in Shiloh, carried the ephod, and the people did not know that Jonathan had gone. Between the passes, by which Jonathan sought to pass to the garrison of the Philistines, there was a sharp crag on one side and another on the other side. The one was named Bozez, and the other Sene. Jonathan said to his armor-bearer, "Come, let us pass to the garrison of these uncircumcised. Perhaps Jehovah will do something for us, because it is not difficult for Jehovah to save with many or with few." His armor-bearer responded to him, "Do everything that is in your heart. Go." "Well, here I am with you to your will." Jonathan said, "Let us go past to those men, and we will show ourselves to them. If they say to us thus, 'Wait until we arrive to you,' then we will stay in our place and will not go up to them. But if they say to us thus, 'Go up to us,' then we will go up, because Jehovah has delivered them into our hands, and this will be to us for sign." Both showed themselves, Well, to the garrison of the Philistines. And the Philistines said, Behold the Hebrews who come out of the caves where they had hidden themselves. The men of the garrison shouted to Jonathan and to his armor-bearer, Go up to us, and we will make you know a thing. Then Jonathan said to his armor-bearer, Go up after me, because Jehovah has delivered them into hands of Israel. Jonathan went up climbing with his hands and his feet, and after him his armor-bearer, and the ones who fell before Jonathan. His armor-bearer who went after him killed them. In this first slaughter that Jonathan and his armor-bearer made, they killed about 20 men in the space of a half-furrow of land. Panic spread in the camp and through the field and among all the people of the garrison, and the ones who had gone to plunder. Also they had panic, and the earth trembled. There was, panic of God. The sentinels of Saul saw from Gibeah of Benjamin how the multitude was troubled and was dissolving itself. Then Saul said to the people who were with him, Pass muster and see who has gone from us. They passed muster, and behold, that Jonathan and his armor-bearer were not there. Saul said to Ahijah, Bring the ark of God, because the ark of God was then with the sons of Israel. But while Saul spoke with the priest, the uproar that was in the camp of the Philistines increased, and went on growing in great manner. Then Saul said to the priest, Stop your hand. Saul gathered, and all the people who were with him, and came until the place of the battle. And behold, that the sword of each one was against his companion, and there was a very great confusion. The Hebrews who had been with the Philistines from time before, and who had come with them from the surroundings to the camp. Also these returned to join with the Israelites who were with Saul and with Jonathan. Likewise, all the Israelites who had hidden themselves in the mount of Ephraim, hearing that the Philistines fled, they also followed them in that battle. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day. The battle extended until Beth-aven, but then Saul committed an error that almost ruined the victory. He had conjured the people, saying, Whoever eats bread until the night, until I have taken vengeance of my enemies, be cursed. For this all the people had not tasted bread. All the people arrived at a forest where there was wild honey. The people entered, in the forest, and behold, that the honey flowed. But there was no one who made his hand reach his mouth, because the people feared the oath. But Jonathan had not heard when his father had conjured the people, and stretched out the tip of a staff that he carried in his hand, and dipped it in a honeycomb, and brought his hand to his mouth, and his eyes were brightened. Then spoke one of the people, saying, Your father has solemnly conjured the people, saying, Cursed be the man who eats food today. And the people fainted. Jonathan responded, My father has troubled the country. See now how my eyes have been brightened for having tasted a little of this honey. How much more if the people had eaten freely today of the spoil taken from their enemies? Would not now a greater slaughter have been made among the Philistines? That night, when they consulted God about whether they should pursue the Philistines, God did not respond. Saul said, Approach here all the chiefs of the people and know and see in what this sin has consisted today. Because Jehovah lives, who saves Israel, that even if it were in Jonathan my son, he will surely die. And there was no one in all the people who responded to him. They cast lots between Saul and Jonathan his son, and the lot fell upon Jonathan. Then Saul said to Jonathan, Declare to me what you have done. Jonathan declared it to him and said, Certainly I tasted a little honey with the tip of the staff that I carried in my hand, and I must die for that. Saul responded, So may God do to me, and even may he add to me that you will surely die, Jonathan. Then the people said to Saul, Shall Jonathan die? He who has made this great salvation in Israel. It shall not be so. Jehovah lives, that not a hair of his head shall fall to the ground, because he has worked today with God. Thus the people delivered Jonathan from death. Saul stopped pursuing the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their place. The victory had been of Israel. But the imprudent behavior of Saul had converted a triumph into a bitter experience. Samuel came to Saul with a new order from the Lord. As chapter 15 tells us, Samuel says to Saul, "Jehovah sent me to anoint you for king over his people Israel. Now, well, be attentive to the words of Jehovah. Thus has said Jehovah of hosts, I will punish what Amalek did to Israel upon opposing him on the way when he went up from Egypt. Go, well, and smite Amalek and destroy everything that he has, and do not have pity on him. Kill men, women, children, and even babies, cows, sheep, camels, and donkeys." Saul convened the people and counted them in Telaim, 200,000 men on foot and 10,000 men of Judah. He arrived until the city of Amalek and put an ambush in the valley. Saul said to the Kenites, "Go, depart and go out from among the Amalekites, so that I do not destroy you together with them, because you showed mercy to all the sons of Israel when they went up from Egypt." The Kenites departed from among the Amalekites. Saul defeated the Amalekites from Havilah until arriving at Shur, that is, to the east of Egypt. He took alive Agag, king of Amalek, but killed all the people by the edge of the sword. Saul and the people forgave Agag and the best of the sheep and of the larger cattle, of the fattened animals, of the rams and of everything good, and they did not want to destroy it. But everything that was vile and despicable they destroyed. Word of the Lord came to Samuel, saying, "It grieves me to have set Saul for king, because he has turned from after me and has not fulfilled my words." Samuel was grieved and cried out to the Lord all that night. Samuel got up early then to go meet Saul in the morning. And report was given to Samuel, saying, "Saul has come to Carmel, and behold, he raised a monument and turned and passed ahead and descended to Gilgal." Samuel came, well, to Saul, and Saul said to him, "Blessed be you of the Lord. I have fulfilled the word of the Lord." Samuel then said, "Then what bleating of sheep and lowing of cows is this that I hear with my ears?" Saul responded, "From Amalek they have brought them, because the people forgave the best of the sheep and of the cows, to sacrifice them to Jehovah your God, but the rest we destroyed." Then Samuel said to Saul, "Let me declare to you what the Lord has said to me this night." And he responded to him, "Speak," Samuel said. "Although you were little in your own eyes, have you not been made chief of the tribes of Israel? And the Lord has anointed you for king over Israel. The Lord sent you on mission and said, 'Go, destroy the sinners of Amalek, and make war against them until you finish them.' Why then have you not heard the voice of the Lord, but turned to the spoil, have done evil before the eyes of the Lord?" Saul responded to Samuel, "Rather, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and went on the mission that the Lord sent me, and brought Agag, king of Amalek, and have destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took of the spoil sheep and cows, the first fruits of the ban, to offer sacrifices to the Lord your God in Gilgal." Samuel responded to him, "Does the Lord delight as much in burnt offerings and victims as in that the words of the Lord be obeyed? Certainly to obey is better than sacrifices, and to pay attention than the fat of rams. Because like sin of divination is rebellion, and like idols and idolatry is obstinacy." For as much as you rejected the word of the Lord, he has also rejected you, so that you may not be king. Then Saul said to Samuel, "I have sinned, because I have broken the commandment of the Lord and your words, because I feared the people and consented to their voice. Pardon. Well, now my sin, and return with me so that I may worship the Lord." Samuel responded to Saul, "I will not return with you, because you rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you so that you may not be king over Israel." Samuel turned to go, but he caught hold of the tip of his mantle, and it tore. Then Samuel said to him, "The Lord has torn today the kingdom of Israel from you, and has given it to a neighbor of yours who is better than you. Besides, the one who is the glory of Israel will not lie nor repent, because he is not a man that he should repent." He then said, "I have sinned, but I beg you that you honor me before the elders of my people and before Israel, and return with me so that I may worship the Lord your God." Samuel returned after Saul, and Saul worshipped the Lord. Afterwards Samuel said, "Bring here to me Agag, king of Amalek." Agag came to him cheerfully, and Agag said, "Certainly already past the bitterness of death." Samuel said, "As your sword left women without children, so your mother will be without child among women." Then Samuel cut into pieces Agag before the Lord in Gilgal. Samuel went then to Ramah, and Saul went up to his house in Gibeah of Saul. Never after did Samuel see Saul all his life, and Samuel wept for Saul. And the Lord had repented of having set Saul for king over Israel. The disobedience of Saul had sealed his destiny. His kingdom had arrived at its end before the eyes of God. After rejecting Saul as king, God spoke to Samuel, as chapter 16 tells us. The Lord said to Samuel, "Until when will you weep for Saul, having rejected him so that he may not reign over Israel? Fill your horn of oil and go. I will send you to Jesse of Bethlehem. Because of his sons, I have provided for myself a king." Samuel responded, "How shall I go? If Saul hears it, he will kill me." The Lord responded, "Take with you a heifer of the herd and say, 'To offer sacrifice to Jehovah I have come.' And you will call Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will teach you what you have to do, and you will anoint for me the one whom I shall tell you." Samuel did, well, as the Lord said to him, and as soon as he arrived at Bethlehem, the elders of the city came out to meet him with fear and said, "Is peaceable your coming?" He responded, "Yes, I come to offer sacrifice to Jehovah. Sanctify yourselves and come with me to the sacrifice." He sanctified also Jesse and his sons, and called them to the sacrifice. It happened that when they came, he saw Eliab and said, "Surely before Jehovah is his anointed." The Lord responded to Samuel, "Do not look at his appearance nor at the greatness of his stature, because I reject him. Because Jehovah does not look at what man looks at. Because man looks at what is before his eyes, but Jehovah looks at the heart." Then Jesse called Abinadab and made him pass before Samuel, who said, "Neither has Jehovah chosen this one." Jesse made then Shammah pass, and he said, "Neither has Jehovah chosen this one." And Jesse made 7 of his sons pass before Samuel. But Samuel said to Jesse, "Jehovah has not chosen these." Then Samuel said to Jesse, "Are these all your sons?" And he responded, "There stays yet the youngest who feeds the sheep." Samuel said to Jesse, "Send for him, because we will not sit at the table until he comes here." He sent, for him and made him enter, and he was reddish, handsome of eyes and of good appearance. Then the Lord said, "Get up and anoint him, because this is the one." Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the middle of his brothers, and from that day onward, the Spirit of Jehovah came upon David. Samuel got up then and returned to Ramah. The Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from part of the Lord tormented him. The servants of Saul said to him, "Behold, now an evil spirit from part of God torments you. Let say then our Lord to your servants who are before you, that they look for someone who knows how to play the harp, so that when the evil spirit from part of God is upon you, he may play with his hand, and you may have relief." Saul responded to his servants, "Look for me." Well, Now someone who plays well, and bring him to me." Then one of the servants responded, saying, "Behold, I have seen a son of Jesse of Bethlehem, who knows how to play, and is valiant and vigorous, and man of war, prudent in his words and handsome, and Jehovah is with him." Saul sent messengers to Jesse, saying, "Send me David, your son, the one who is with the sheep." Jesse took a donkey loaded with bread, a vessel of wine and a kid, and sent it to Saul by hand of David, his son. David came to Saul and stood before him, and he loved him very much, and made him his armor-bearer. Saul sent to say to Jesse, "I beg you that David may stay with me, because he has found grace in my eyes." It happened that when the evil spirit from part of God came upon Saul, David took the harp and played with his hand. And Saul had refreshment and was better, and the evil spirit departed from him. Thus began one of the most extraordinary stories of the Bible. The young shepherd who had been anointed in secret now served the same king who had been rejected by God. David did not know that one day he would occupy the throne of Saul, and Saul did not know that the boy who played the harp to calm him was his future replacement. The Philistines gathered their armies for battle and encamped in Soko, which belongs to Judah. Saul and the men of Israel gathered and encamped in the valley of Elah, preparing themselves to face the Philistines. As chapter 17 tells us, the Philistines were on a mount on one side, and Israel on the mount of the other side, with the valley between them. Then a champion came out from the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath. His height was of 6 cubits and a span, approximately 3 meters. He carried a bronze helmet on his head and was dressed with a coat of mail that weighed 5,000 shekels of bronze. Over his legs he had bronze greaves, and between his shoulders he carried a bronze javelin. The shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and its iron point weighed 600 shekels. His shield-bearer went before him. Goliath planted himself and shouted to the troops of Israel, "For what have you gone out to give battle? Am not I the Philistine? And you the servants of Saul? Choose from among you a man who may come against me during 40 days, morning and evening." The giant presented himself and challenged Israel. No one dared to face him. Terror had paralyzed the army of the people of God. But in Bethlehem, the young David received a seemingly simple mission from his father Jesse to take provisions to his brothers who served in the army. David arrived at the camp just when Goliath made his daily challenge. He asked the soldiers, "What will they do to the man who kills this Philistine and removes the reproach from Israel?" Because, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine so that he may provoke the armies of the living God?" His brothers bothered themselves with him, but David kept asking. His words arrived at ears of Saul, who commanded to call him. David said to the king, "Let not the heart of anyone faint because of him. Your servant will go and will fight against this Philistine." Saul responded, "You will not be able to go against that Philistine to fight with him, because you are a boy, and he a man of war from his youth." But David counted how he had killed lions and bears, while he took care of the sheep of his father, and declared, "Jehovah, who has delivered me from the paws of the lion and from the paws of the bear, he will also deliver me from the hand of this Philistine." Saul tried to dress David with his armor, but the young shepherd rejected it because he was not accustomed to it. Instead, he took his staff, chose 5 smooth stones from the brook, put them in his shepherd's bag, and with his sling in his hand approached the Philistine. When Goliath saw David, he despised him because he was young, reddish and of handsome appearance. The giant shouted to him, "Am I a dog so that you come to me with sticks?" But David responded with words that would resonate through the centuries. "You come to me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of Jehovah of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have provoked." The shepherd added, "Jehovah will deliver you today into my hand, and I will defeat you, and will cut off your head, and will give today the bodies of the Philistines to the birds of the sky and to the beasts of the earth. And all the earth will know that there is a God in Israel." The giant got up and marched toward David, but the young man ran toward the line of battle, put his hand into the bag, took a stone, launched it with the sling, and smote the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank into the forehead of Goliath, and he fell face to the ground. Thus David defeated the Philistine with sling and stone. David ran, stood over the Philistine, took the sword of him, and finished him. When the Philistines saw that their champion had died, they fled. The men of Israel and of Judah got up, shouted, and pursued them. That day, the faith of a young shepherd had defeated the fear of an entire army. When David finished speaking with Saul after the victory over Goliath, something extraordinary happened. As chapter 18 tells us, the soul of Jonathan was bound with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him like his own soul. From that day, Saul did not let David return to house of his father. Jonathan made covenant with David because he loved him like his own soul. He took off the mantle that he carried and gave it to David and other clothes of his, even his sword, his bow, and his belt. This was not a simple friendship. It was a sacred alliance between two men who recognized the call of God on their lives. David went out to wherever Saul sent him and behaved prudently. Saul put him over people of war, and he was accepted in the eyes of all the people and in the eyes of the servants of Saul. The young shepherd had become a respected warrior, but his success would soon become dangerous. It happened that when they returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, the women of all the cities of Israel came out singing and dancing to receive King Saul with tambourines, with songs of joy, and with instruments of music. The women sang and said, "Saul has smitten his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." These words ignited the anger of Saul. He was very angry, and this saying displeased him. He said, "To David they have given tens of thousands, and to me thousands. There is not lacking to him anything except the kingdom." From that day, Saul did not look with good eyes at David. The king had begun to see in the young hero not an ally, but a threat to his throne. The other day it happened that an evil spirit from part of God took Saul, and he raved in the middle of the house. David played with his hand like the other days, and Saul had spear in his hand. Saul threw the spear, saying, "I will nail David to the wall." But David evaded it. Twice Saul feared David, for as much as Jehovah was with him, and had departed from Saul. For this Saul removed him from himself, and made him chief of 1,000, and he went out and entered before the people. David conducted himself prudently in all his affairs, and Jehovah was with him. Seeing Saul that he behaved very prudent, he had fear of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David because he went out and entered before them. The popularity of David grew while that of Saul diminished, which intensified the jealousy of the king. Saul then conceived a seemingly generous plan, but in reality mortal. Saul said to David, "Behold, my elder daughter Merab, I will give her to you for wife. Only be valiant for me and fight the battles of Jehovah." Because Saul said, "Let not my hand be against him, but let the hand of the Philistines be against him." David responded to Saul, "Who am I, or what is my life, or the family of my father in Israel, so that I may be son-in-law of the king?" But when the time arrived in which Merab, daughter of Saul, was to be given to David, she was given for wife to Adriel the Maholathite. Saul had broken his promise, but soon he would have another opportunity. Michal, the other daughter of Saul, loved David. When they told it to Saul, it seemed good to him. Saul said, "I will give her to him so that she may be to him for a snare, and so that the hand of the Philistines may be against him." Saul said, "Then to David for second time, "You will be my son-in-law today." Saul commanded his servants, "Speak to David, saying, 'Behold, the king loves you and all his servants love you. Be, well, son-in-law of the king.'" The servants of Saul spoke these words to the ears of David. David responded, "Does it seem little to you to be son-in-law of the king, being I a poor man and of no esteem?" The servants of Saul reported to him the words that David had said. Saul then said, "Say thus to David, 'The king does not desire dowry, but 100 foreskins of Philistines, so that vengeance may be taken of the enemies of the king.'" But Saul thought to make David fall in hand of the Philistines. His servants declared these words to David, and it seemed good to David to be son-in-law of the king. Before the term was fulfilled, David got up and went with his men and killed 200 men of the Philistines. And David brought their foreskins, and they delivered them all to the king, in order that he might be made son-in-law of the king. Saul gave him his daughter Michal for wife. But when Saul saw and understood that Jehovah was with David and that his daughter Michal loved him, Saul had more fear of David, and Saul was enemy of David all the days. The princes of the Philistines went out to campaign, and each time they went out, David had more success than all the servants of Saul, and his name was very esteemed. Chapter 19 shows us how the paranoia of Saul intensified until becoming a mortal obsession. Saul spoke to Jonathan, his son, and to all his servants, so that they might kill David. But Jonathan, son of Saul, loved David very much. He gave notice to David, saying, "My father Saul seeks to kill you. Therefore, take care until the morning and stay in a hidden place and hide yourself." Jonathan spoke well of David to Saul, his father, and said to him, "Let not sin the king against his servant David, because he has not committed anything against you, and because his works have been very good toward you, that he put his life in his palm and smote the Philistine. And the Lord made great salvation to all Israel. You saw it and rejoiced. Why then will you sin against innocent blood, killing David without cause?" Saul heard the voice of Jonathan and swore, "Jehovah lives that he will not die." Then Jonathan called David and declared to him all these words. And Jonathan brought David to Saul, and he stood before him like before. It seemed that the crisis had passed, but the peace would be brief. Afterwards, there was war again, and David went out and fought against the Philistines, and smote them with great slaughter, and they fled before him. But the evil spirit from part of Jehovah came upon Saul, and being seated in his house, he had a spear in his hand, while David played with his hand. Saul sought to nail David with the spear to the wall, but he departed from before Saul, and the spear stuck in the wall, and David fled and escaped that night. This time David understood that his life was in real and constant danger. Saul sent then messengers to house of David, so that they might watch him and kill him in the morning. But Michal, his wife, warned David, saying, "If you do not save your life tonight, tomorrow you will be killed." Michal descended David through a window, and he went and fled and escaped. Michal took then a statue and put it on the bed, and arranged for its head a pillow of goat hair, and covered it with a garment. When Saul sent messengers to seize David, she said, "He is sick." Saul returned to send messengers, so that they might see David, saying, "Bring him to me in the bed, so that I may kill him." When the messengers entered, behold, the statue was in the bed, and a pillow of goat hair for head. Then Saul said to Michal, "Why have you deceived me thus, and have let my enemy escape?" Michal responded to Saul, "Because he said to me, 'Let me go, if not I will kill you.'" David fled and escaped, and came to Samuel in Ramah, and told him everything that Saul had done with him. he and Samuel went and dwelled in Naioth. Report was given to Saul, saying, "Behold, that David is in Naioth in Ramah." Saul sent messengers so that they might bring David, which saw a company of prophets who prophesied, and Samuel, who stood there presiding over them. The Spirit of God came upon the messengers of Saul, and they also prophesied. When it was told to Saul, he sent other messengers, which also prophesied. Saul returned to send messengers for third time, and they also prophesied. Then he himself came to Ramah, and arriving at the great well that is in Sechu, asked, saying, "Where are Samuel and David?" One responded, "Behold, they are in Naioth in Ramah." He went there to Naioth in Ramah, and also came upon him the Spirit of God, and he kept walking and prophesying until he arrived at Naioth in Ramah. He stripped off also his garments, and prophesied likewise before Samuel, and was naked all that day and all that night. From here it was said also Saul among the prophets. God had protected David in an extraordinary way, using even Saul himself as instrument of his protection. David fled from Naioth in Ramah and came before Jonathan and said, "What have I done? What is my wickedness? Or what my sin against your father, so that he seeks my life?" As chapter 20 tells us, Jonathan responded to him, "In no manner you will not die. Behold that my father does not do anything great nor small that he does not discover it to me. Why then would my father cover this matter from me? It shall not be so." David swore again, saying, "Your father knows clearly that I have found grace before your eyes, and will say, 'Let not Jonathan know this, so that he may not grieve.' And certainly as Jehovah lives and your soul lives, that barely there is a step between me and death." Jonathan said to David, "What your soul says I will do for you." David responded to Jonathan, "Behold that tomorrow will be new moon, and I am accustomed to sit with the king to eat, but you will let me hide in the field until the evening of the third day. If your father makes mention of me, you will say, 'He asked me a lot that I would let him go running to Bethlehem his city, because all his lineage have their annual sacrifice.'" David continued, "If he says, 'Well, it is,' then your servant will have peace. But if he is angry, know that the wickedness is determined from his part. You will do, well, mercy with your servant, since you have made your servant enter into covenant of Jehovah with you. And if there is wickedness in me, kill me yourself." "Why bring me up to your father?" Jonathan responded. "Never such thing happened to you. Rather, if I understand that wickedness is determined from the part of my father to come upon you, will I not make it known to you?" Then said David to Jonathan, "Who will give me notice, or what? If your father responds to you harshly." Jonathan said to David, "Come, let us go out to the field." And both went out to the field. Then said Jonathan to David, "Jehovah, God of Israel, is witness that when I have sounded my father tomorrow at this time or after tomorrow, if there is good for David, will I not then send to you and make it known to you?" Jonathan added, "But if my father intends to do you evil, may Jehovah do so to Jonathan and even add to it, if I do not let you know and send you away so that you may go in peace. And may Jehovah be with you, as he was with my father. And if I live, you will do with me mercy of Jehovah. But if I die, you will never remove your mercy from my house." In this manner, Jonathan made covenant with the house of David. And Jonathan said, "May Jehovah require it from the hand of the enemies of David." Jonathan made David swear also by the love that he had for him, because he loved him like his own soul. Then Jonathan said to him, "Tomorrow is new moon, and you will be missed, because your seat will be empty. On the third day you will descend fully, and will come to the place where you stayed hidden on the day of work, and will wait next to the stone. Ezel and I will shoot 3 arrows toward that side, like one who shoots at the target. Jonathan explained the sign. Then I will send the young man, saying, Go, look for the arrows. And if I say to the young man, Behold, the arrows are this side of you, take them, you will come, because you have peace and nothing of evil is there. Jehovah lives. But if I say to the young man, Behold, the arrows are beyond you, go, because Jehovah sends you. He added, As for the words that you and I have spoken, behold, Jehovah be between you and me forever. David, hid himself in the field. When the new moon arrived, the king sat down to eat bread. The king sat on his chair as he was accustomed on the chair next to the wall. Jonathan got up, and Abner sat by the side of Saul. And the place of David stayed empty. But that day, Saul did not say anything, because he said to himself, It will have happened to him something, and he is not clean. For sure he is not clean. On the second day of the new moon, the place of David returned to stay empty. Then Saul said to Jonathan his son, Why has not come the son of Jesse to eat today, nor yesterday? Jonathan responded to Saul, David asked me earnestly that I would let him go to Bethlehem, and said, I beg you that you let me go, because we have sacrifice, the ones of our lineage in the city, and my brother has commanded it to me. Therefore, if I have found grace in your eyes, I will make an escape now and will visit my brothers. For this he has not come to the table of the king. Then the anger of Saul was ignited against Jonathan, and he said to him, Son of the perverse and rebellious woman, do not I know that you have chosen the son of Jesse for your own confusion and for confusion of the shame of your mother? Because all the time that the son of Jesse lives upon the earth, neither you will be firm nor your kingdom. Send, now and bring him to me, because he has to die. Jonathan responded to his father Saul, Why will he die? What has he done? Then Saul threw a spear at him to smite him, from where Jonathan understood that his father was resolved to kill David. Jonathan got up from the table with exalted anger and did not eat bread on the second day of the new moon, because he had pain because of David, because his father had reproached him. Arrived the morning, Jonathan went out to the field at the time appointed with David and a small young man with him. He said to the young man, Run and look for the arrows that I will shoot. When the young man went running, he shot an arrow that passed beyond him. Arriving the young man to where the arrow was that Jonathan had shot, Jonathan gave voices after the young man, saying, Is not the arrow beyond you? Jonathan shouted again after the young man, Run, make haste, do not stop. The young man of Jonathan collected the arrows and came to his lord. But the young man did not understand anything of the matter. Only Jonathan and David understood what it was about. Then Jonathan gave his weapons to the young man and said to him, Go and take them to the city. When the young man had gone, David got up from the side of the south and bowed 3 times, prostrating himself until the ground and kissing one the other. They wept one with the other, and David wept more. Then Jonathan said to David, Go in peace, because both we have sworn in the name of Jehovah, saying, Jehovah be between you and me, between your descendants and my descendants forever. David got up and went, and Jonathan entered into the city. David came to the priest Ahimelech, and Ahimelech trembled upon meeting David and said to him, Why do you come alone and no one with you? As chapter 21 tells us, David responded to the priest Ahimelech, The king commanded me a matter and said to me, Let no one know anything of the matter to which I send you, and of what I have commanded you. And I have cited the servants to a certain place. David continued with his necessary deception. Now, what do you have at hand? Give me 5 loaves or what you have. The priest responded to David, I do not have common bread at hand. Only I have sacred bread. but I will give it if the servants have kept themselves at least from women." David responded to the priest, "Truly, women have been far from us yesterday and before yesterday, when I went out. The vessels of the young men were holy. Although the journey is profane, how much more will not their vessels be holy today?" So the priest gave him the sacred bread, because there was no other bread there, except the showbread, which had been removed from the presence of Jehovah, to put hot bread the day that those were removed. That day, there was one of the servants of Saul detained before Jehovah, who was named Doeg the Edomite, the chief of the shepherds of Saul. This seemingly minor detail would have terrible consequences later. David said to Ahimelech, "Do you not have here at hand spear or sword? Because I did not take in my hand my sword nor my weapons, because the order of the king was pressing." The priest responded, "The sword of Goliath, the Philistine, whom you killed in the valley of Elah, is here wrapped in a veil behind the ephod. If you want to take it, take it, because here there is no other except that one." David said, "None like it. Give it to me." It was ironic that David, who had killed the giant without weapons, now needed the sword of the same enemy that he had defeated. But the times had changed, and David was no longer the confident young shepherd. Now he was a desperate fugitive. David got up that day and fled from the presence of Saul and went to Achish, king of Gath. The servants of Achish said to him, "Is not this David, the king of the land? Is not this of whom they sang in the dances, saying, 'Saul has smitten his thousands, and David his tens of thousands'?" David put these words in his heart and had great fear of Achish, king of Gath. He changed his manner of behaving before them and feigned himself mad in their hands, and wrote on the leaves of the doors, and let spit run down his beard. Achish said to his servants, "Behold, you see that this man is mad. Why have you brought him to me? Do I lack madmen, so that you have brought this one to act the madman before me? Should this one enter into my house?" Thus David escaped from there and fled to the cave of Adullam. Going then David from there, he escaped to the cave of Adullam, and when his brothers and all the house of his father knew it, they came there to him. As chapter 22 tells us, all the afflicted gathered with him, and everyone who was in debt, and all who found themselves in bitterness of spirit. And he was made chief of them, and had with himself about 400 men. This description of the followers of David is fascinating. They were not professional soldiers nor nobles of the court. They were the marginalized of the society, the ones who had debts that they could not pay, the ones who had been treated unjustly, the ones who had lost hope in the current system. They were desperate men who saw in David an opportunity to begin again. David went from there to Mizpah of Moab and said to the king of Moab, "I beg you that my father and my mother may be with you until I know what God will do for me." He put them, in presence of the king of Moab, and they dwelled with him all the time that David was in the stronghold. But the prophet Gad said to David, "Do not stay in the stronghold. Go and walk to the land of Judah." David went and came to the forest of Hereth. The cave of Adullam had converted into something more than a refuge. It was the place where a new type of leadership was born in Israel. David had not sought to be leader of outlaws, but God was using these circumstances to forge him as the future king of Israel. These desperate men would convert into his most loyal warriors, and many of them would arrive to be the mighty men of David, mentioned later in the scriptures. The cave represented more than a hiding place. It was a symbol of how God can use the most difficult circumstances to prepare his chosen ones. David was learning to lead not from a palace, but from the margins of society. He was developing empathy for the oppressed and understanding the needs of the common people. Saul heard how David and the ones who were with him had appeared. Saul was then in Gibeah under a tree in Ramah, and had his spear in his hand, and all his servants stood around him. Saul said to his servants, who stood around him, "Hear now, Benjamites, will the son of Jesse give also to all of you fields and vineyards, and will make all of you chiefs of thousands and chiefs of hundreds?" Saul continued with his paranoia, "Why have you all conspired against me? And there is no one who discovers to me that my son has made alliance with the son of Jesse. Nor any one of you who sorrows for me, and discovers to me that my son has raised my servant against me, so that he may lie in wait for me as he does today." Then Doeg the Edomite responded, who stood next to the servants of Saul, "I saw the son of Jesse, who came to Nob to Ahimelech, son of Ahitub, who consulted for him Jehovah, and gave him provisions, and also gave to him the sword of Goliath, the Philistine. The king sent to call the priest Ahimelech, son of Ahitub, and all the house of his father, the priests who were in Nob, and all came to the king. Saul said, "Here, son of Ahitub." He responded, "Here I am." "My lord," Saul said to him, "why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Jesse, when you gave him bread and sword and consulted God for him, so that he would rise up against me and lie in wait for me as he does today?" Ahimelech responded to the king, "And who among all your servants is as faithful as David, son-in-law of the king, and who goes at your orders and is illustrious in your house? Have I begun today to consult God for him? Far be it from me. Let not the king accuse of anything his servant, nor all the house of my father, because your servant does not know anything of this matter, great nor small." The king said, "You will surely die, Ahimelech, you and all the house of your father." Then said the king to the people of his guard, who stood around him, "Turn and kill the priests of Jehovah, because their hand is also with David. Well knowing they that he fled, they did not discover it to me." But the servants of the king did not want to extend their hands to kill the priests of Jehovah. Then the king said to Doeg, "Turn you and rush upon the priests." Doeg the Edomite turned and rushed upon the priests, and killed in that day 85 men who wore linen ephod. He also smote by the edge of the sword Nob, the city of the priests, as much men as women, children and nursing babies, cows, donkeys and sheep. He smote by the edge of the sword. But one of the sons of Ahimelech, son of Ahitub, who was named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. Abiathar gave notice to David of how Saul had put to death the priests of Jehovah. David said to Abiathar, "I knew that staying there that day, Doeg the Edomite, he would make it known to Saul. I have caused the death of all the persons of the house of your father." David added, "Stay with me. Do not fear. Whoever seeks my life will seek also yours. But with me you will be safe." This massacre of 85 innocent priests marked a point of no return in the moral degradation of Saul. The king had crossed a line that he could not undo. Notice was given to David, saying, "Behold that the Philistines fight against Keilah and rob the threshing floors." As chapter 23 tells us, David consulted Jehovah, saying, "Shall I go and smite these Philistines?" Jehovah responded to David, "Go, smite the Philistines and save Keilah." But the men of David said to him, "Behold that we here in Judah are with fear. How much more if we go to Keilah against the army of the Philistines?" David returned to consult Jehovah, and Jehovah responded to him, "Get up, descend to Keilah, because I will deliver the Philistines into your hand." David went, with his men to Keilah and fought against the Philistines, and brought their cattle and smote them with great slaughter. And David saved the ones of Keilah. It happened that when Abiathar, son of Ahimelech, fled after David to Keilah, he descended with the ephod in his hand. Notice was given to Saul that David had come to Keilah. Then Saul said, God has delivered him into my hand, because he has shut himself in coming into a city with gates and bars. Saul convened all the people to battle to descend to Keilah and besiege David and his men. But David, understanding that Saul plotted evil against him, said to the priest, Abiathar, bring the ephod, David said. Jehovah, God of Israel, your servant has understood that Saul tries to come to Keilah to destroy the city because of me. Will the lords of Keilah deliver me into his hands? Will Saul descend as your servant has heard? Jehovah, God of Israel, I beg you that you declare it to your servant. Jehovah responded, Yes, he will descend. David returned to say, Will the lords of Keilah deliver me and my men into hands of Saul? Jehovah responded, They will deliver you. Then David got up with his men, who were about 600, and went out from Keilah and walked from one place to another. The ingratitude of Keilah must have hurt David deeply. He had risked his life and those of his men to save the city from the Philistines. But when Saul threatened to attack, the inhabitants were willing to deliver David to save their own lives. Notice being given to Saul that David had escaped from Keilah. He stopped going out. David stayed in the desert, in strong places, and dwelled in a mount in the desert of Zeph. And Saul looked for him all the days, but God did not deliver him into his hands. Seeing, David, that Saul had gone out in search of his life, David stayed in the desert of Ziph, in the forest. Then Jonathan, son of Saul, got up and came to David to the forest and strengthened his hand in God. He said to him, Do not fear, because the hand of Saul, my father, will not find you, and you will reign over Israel, and I will be second after you, and even Saul, my father, so knows it. Both made covenant before Jehovah, and David stayed in the forest, and Jonathan returned to his house. Afterwards, the ones of Ziph went up and said to Saul in Gibeah, Is not David hidden in our territory, in the crags of the forest, in the hill of Hachilah, that is to the south of the desert? One more time, David faced the betrayal of those whom he had protected, the ones of Ziph, of the territory of Judah, his own tribe, were willing to deliver him to Saul. Chapter 24 takes us to the cave of En-Gedi, where David would have the perfect opportunity to kill Saul, but would choose mercy over vengeance. When Saul returned from pursuing the Philistines, notice was given to him saying, Behold that David is in the desert of En-Gedi. Saul took then 3,000 chosen men from all Israel and went to look for David and his men by the crests of the crags of the wild goats. He arrived at a sheepfold on the way where there was a cave, and Saul entered into it to cover his feet. David and his men sat in the recesses of the cave. Then the men of David said to him, Behold the day of which Jehovah said to you, Behold, I deliver your enemy into your hand, and you shall do with him as it seems good to you. David got up and quietly cut off the edge of the mantle of Saul. After this, the heart of David troubled him, because he had cut off the edge of the mantle of Saul. He said to his men, May Jehovah keep me from doing such thing against my Lord, the anointed of Jehovah, that I should extend my hand against him, because he is the anointed of Jehovah. Thus David repressed his men with words and did not permit that they rose up against Saul. Saul, going out of the cave, continued his way. Afterwards also David got up and going out of the cave gave voices after Saul, saying, My Lord, the king. When Saul looked back, David bowed his face to the ground and made reverence. David said to Saul, Why do you hear the words of those who say, Look that David seeks your evil? Behold, your eyes have seen today how Jehovah has put you today into my hands in the cave. and they told me to kill you. But I spared you, because I said, I will not extend my hand against my Lord, because he is the anointed of Jehovah. David showed the piece of the mantle of Saul and said, Look, my father, look at the edge of your mantle in my hand, because I cut off the edge of your mantle and did not kill you. No. Well, and see that there is no evil nor treason in my hand, nor have I sinned against you. Nevertheless, you hunt for my life to take it away. Saul raised his voice and wept and said to David, More righteous are you than me, that you have rewarded me with good. Having I rewarded you with evil, you have shown today that you have done good with me, since you have not killed me, having Jehovah put me into your hands. Saul recognized, because who will find his enemy and let him go safe and sound? May Jehovah reward you with good for what in this day you have done with me. And now, as I understand that you shall surely reign, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be firm in your hand, swear to me, well, now by Jehovah, that you will not destroy my descendants after me, nor erase my name from the house of my father. David swore to Saul. Saul went to his house, and David and his men went up to the stronghold. This moment in the cave represented the greatness of the character of David. He had chosen mercy when vengeance was at his reach, demonstrating that he was truly a man according to the heart of God. Samuel died, and all Israel gathered and wept for him and buried him in his house in Ramah. As the initial verse of chapter 25 tells us, with these simple but profound words, the scriptures record the end of an era in Israel. Samuel, the last great judge, the man who had anointed the first king and who had served as the voice of God for decades, had departed from this world. The death of Samuel was not only the loss of a religious leader, it was the definitive close of the period of the judges and the confirmation that Israel had entered irreversibly into the monarchical era. Samuel had been the bridge between the ancient order, where God governed directly through judges raised according to his will, and the new system where a human king would occupy the throne of Israel. All Israel wept for Samuel, recognizing that with him went not only a prophet, but a direct connection with the days of spiritual glory of the nation. Samuel had been the man who heard the voice of God with clarity, who interceded for the people, who anointed kings, and who kept alive the flame of true faith, even in the darkest moments. His burial in Ramah, his native city, symbolized the return home of a man who had served faithfully during all his life, from child in the temple until elderly prophet. Samuel had never failed in his call. Now, with his death, David lost his greatest defender and counselor, while Saul lost the last voice that could have called him to repentance. The timing of the death of Samuel was significant. It occurred at a time when David was in the desert fleeing from Saul, and when the kingdom found itself in a deep crisis. It was as if God were closing a chapter before opening another completely new. David got up and descended to the desert of Paran. Life continued, but Israel would never return to be the same without the prophetic voice of Samuel, guiding the nation. In Maon, there was a man who had his estate in Carmel, who was very rich and had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. This man was named Nabal and his wife Abigail. The woman was of good understanding and of beautiful appearance, but the man was harsh and of bad deeds, and was of the lineage of Caleb. David heard in the desert that Nabal sheared his sheep. Then David sent 10 young men and said to them, "Go up to Carmel and go to Nabal and greet him in my name, and you will say to him thus, 'May you live and be peace to you, and peace to your family, and peace to everything that you have. I have known that you have shearers. Now your shepherds have been with us. We did not treat them badly, nor did anything lack to them in all the time that they have been in Carmel.'" David continued his message, "Ask your servants, and they will tell you. Find, therefore, these young men grace in your eyes. Since we come in a good day, I beg you that you give what you have at hand to your servants and to your son David." When the young men arrived whom David sent, they told Nabal all these words in name of David and kept silent. Nabal responded to the young men of David, "Who is David and who is the son of Jesse? Many servants are there today who flee from their lords. Shall I take now my bread, my water and the meat that I have prepared for my shearers, and give it to men whom I do not know from where they are?" The young men of David returned by their way and came and told David all these words. Then David said to his men, "Gird each one his sword." Each one girded his sword. Also David girded his sword, and they went up after David about 400 men and left 200 with the baggage. The anger of David was understandable but dangerous. He had protected the flocks of Nabal like a wall, as much by day as by night, according to the testimony of the shepherds themselves. In those times, it was custom that rich proprietors shared their abundance with those who had protected them, especially during celebrations like the shearing of sheep. But one of the servants warned Abigail, wife of Nabal, saying, "Behold, David sent messengers from the desert to greet our master, and he has raved against them. Yet those men have been very good with us and never treated us badly, nor did anything lack to us all the time that we walked with them when we were in the field. They were for us a wall by day and by night, all the days that we were with them feeding the sheep." The servant continued, "Now, well, reflect and see what you have to do, because evil is already resolved against our master and against all his house, because he is a man so perverse that no one can speak to him." Then Abigail made haste and took 200 loaves, 2 skins of wine, 5 cooked sheep, 5 measures of roasted grain, 100 clusters of raisins and 200 cakes of pressed figs, and loaded it all on donkeys. She said then to her servants, "Go before me. I will follow you after." Yet she did not declare anything to her husband Nabal. Riding a donkey, she descended by a secret part of the mount. And behold, David and his men came toward her, and she met them. David had said, "Certainly in vain I have guarded everything that this one has in the desert, without anything having lacked to him of everything that is his, and he has returned evil to me for good. So may God do to the enemies of David, and even add to them, that from here until tomorrow, of everything that is his, I will not leave a single male." When Abigail saw David, she got down promptly from the donkey, and prostrating herself before David on her face, she bowed to the ground, threw herself at his feet and said, "My lord, upon me be the sin, but I beg you that you permit your servant to speak to your ears and hear the words of your servant." Abigail continued with words full of wisdom, "Do not let my lord pay attention now to that perverse man, Nabal, because according to his name, so he is. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. Yet I, your servant, did not see the young men whom my lord sent. Now, well, my lord, Jehovah lives and your soul lives, that Jehovah has given you to come to shed blood and avenge yourself by your own hand. Be, well, like Nabal your enemies and all those who seek evil against my lord," the wise woman added. "And now this present that your servant has brought to my lord be given to the men who follow my lord. And I beg you that you pardon your servant this offense, because Jehovah will certainly make a stable house to my lord. For as much as my lord fights the battles of Jehovah, and evil has not been found in you in your days." Abigail then prophesied, "Although someone has risen up to pursue you and to seek your soul, yet the soul of my lord shall be bound in the bundle of the living before Jehovah your God. And he will fling out the soul of your enemies like from the middle of the pocket of a sling. And it will happen that when Jehovah does to my lord, according to all the good that he has spoken concerning you and establishes you for prince over Israel, then, my lord, You will not have motive of sorrow, nor remorse of having shed blood without cause, or of having avenged himself, my lord. Yet when Jehovah does good to my lord, remember your servant." David said to Abigail, "Blessed be Jehovah, God of Israel, who sent you so that today you might meet me. And blessed be your reasoning, and blessed you who have hindered me today from going to shed blood and to avenge myself by my own hand. Because Jehovah lives, God of Israel, who has defended me from doing you evil, that if you had not made haste to come to my meeting, certainly there would not have remained alive to Nabal a single male until tomorrow, at the light of the morning." David received then from her hand what she had brought to him and said to her, "Go up in peace to your house, and see that I have heard your voice, and have had respect to you." Abigail returned to Nabal, and behold, that he had a banquet in his house like banquet of king, and the heart of Nabal was joyful, and he was very drunk, for which reason she did not declare anything to him until the following day, but in the morning, when already to Nabal the effects of the wine had passed. His wife reported these things to him, and his heart failed him in him, and he stayed like a stone. Past 10 days, Jehovah smote Nabal, and he died. As soon as David heard that Nabal was dead, said, "Blessed be Jehovah, who judged the cause of my reproach, received from the hand of Nabal, and has preserved from evil his servant. And Jehovah has returned the wickedness of Nabal upon his own head." Afterwards, David sent to speak with Abigail to take her for his wife. The servants of David came to Abigail in Carmel and spoke to her, saying, "David has sent us to you to take you for his wife." She got up and, bowing face to the ground, said, "Here is your servant, so that she may be a maidservant who washes the feet of the servants of my lord." She got up then promptly, and riding on a donkey went with 5 maidservants of hers, who followed her and followed the messengers of David, and was his wife. The ones of Ziph came to Saul in Gibeah, saying, "Is not David hidden in the hill of Hachilah to the east of the desert?" As chapter 26 tells us, Saul got up and descended to the desert of Ziph, taking with him 3,000 chosen men of Israel to look for David in the desert of Ziph. Saul encamped in the hill of Hachilah, that is to the east of the desert, next to the road. But David was in the desert, and understood that Saul had followed him to the desert. David sent spies and understood that Saul had come certainly. David got up then and came to the place where Saul had encamped. And David observed the place where Saul slept, and Abner, son of Ner, general of his army. Saul slept in the center of the camp, and the people were encamped around him. Then David said to Ahimelech the Hittite and to Abishai, son of Zeruiah, brother of Joab, "Who will descend with me to Saul to the camp?" Abishai responded, "I will descend with you." David and Abishai came by night to the people, and behold, that Saul was stretched out sleeping in the center of the camp, and his spear was stuck in the ground at his head, and Abner and the people were sleeping around him. Then Abishai said to David, "Today has God delivered your enemy into your hand. Now, well, let me that I may pin him to the ground with the spear at once, and I will not add a second." David responded to Abishai, "Do not kill him, because who will extend his hand against the anointed of Jehovah and be innocent?" David added, "Jehovah lives, that if Jehovah does not smite him, or his day arrives, so that he dies, or descending in battle he perishes, may Jehovah keep me from extending my hand against the anointed of Jehovah. But take now the spear that is at his head and the vessel of water, and let us go." David took then the spear and the vessel of water from the head of Saul, and they went. And there was no one who saw, nor understood, nor watched, because a deep sleep sent from Jehovah had fallen upon them. David, passing to the other side, stood on the crest of the mount from afar, there being great distance between them. And David shouted to the people and to Abner, son of Ner, saying, "Do you not respond?" Abner Abner responded, "Who are you that shout to the king?" David said to Abner, "Are not you a man? And who is like you in Israel? Why then, have you not guarded the king your lord? Because one of the people has come to kill the king your lord. This that you have done is not good. Jehovah lives, that you are worthy of death, because you have not guarded your lord, the anointed of Jehovah. Look then now where the spear of the king is, and the vessel of water that was at his head." Saul, knowing the voice of David, said, "Is not this your voice, my son David?" David responded, "My voice is king, my lord." And he said, "Why does my lord pursue thus his servant? What have I done, or what evil is there in my hand? I beg you that the king, my lord, hear now the words of his servant. If Jehovah incites you against me, may he accept offering. But if they are the sons of men, cursed be they in presence of Jehovah, because they have cast me out today, so that I may not have part in the inheritance of Jehovah," saying, "Go and serve foreign gods." David continued, "Let not fall then now my blood to the ground before Jehovah, because the king of Israel has gone out to look for a flea, just like one who pursues a partridge through the mountains." Then said Saul, "I have sinned. Return, my son David, that no evil will I do to you any more, because my life has been estimated precious today in your eyes. Behold, I have acted foolishly and have erred in great manner." David responded, "Behold the spear of the king. Let one of the servants pass and take it, and may Jehovah reward each one his justice and his loyalty, because Jehovah had delivered you today into my hand. But I did not want to extend my hand against the anointed of Jehovah. And behold, as your life has been estimated precious today in my eyes, so may my life be estimated in the eyes of Jehovah, and may he deliver me from all affliction." Then said Saul to David, "Blessed are you, my son David. Without doubt you will undertake great things and will prevail." David went by his way, and Saul returned to his place. This second opportunity that David gave to Saul demonstrated one more time his noble character, but also the tragedy of a king who could not change. Saul recognized his error, but his repentance was superficial and temporal. David understood that he could not continue trusting in the promises of a man whose heart was hardened. David said in his heart, "At last I will be killed someday by the hand of Saul. Nothing, therefore, will be better for me than to flee to the land of the Philistines, so that Saul may not occupy himself with me and may not keep looking for me through all the territory of Israel, and thus I will escape from his hand." As chapter 27 tells us, David got up and with the 600 men who had with himself passed to Achish, son of Maoch, king of Gath. David dwelled with Achish in Gath, he and his men, each one with his family, David with his 2 wives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, who was wife of Nabal, the one of Carmel. Notice was given to Saul that David had fled to Gath, and he did not look for him any more. David said to Achish, "If I have found grace in your eyes, may place be given to me in some of the cities of the countryside, so that I may dwell there. Because, why should your servant dwell with you in the royal city?" Achish gave to him that day Ziklag, for which reason Ziklag belongs to the kings of Judah until today. The number of the days that David dwelled in the land of the Philistines was 1 year and 4 months. David went up with his men and made incursions against the Geshurites, the Girgites, and the Amalekites, because these dwelled from long time the land, from how one goes to Shur until the land of Egypt. David attacked the country and did not leave alive man nor woman, and took the sheep, the cows, the donkeys, the camels, and the garments, and returned and came to Achish. Achish said, "Where have you made incursion today?" David responded. "To the Negeb of Judah, or to the Negeb of Jerahmeel, or to the Negeb of the Kenites." David did not leave a live man nor woman to bring to Gath, saying, "Lest they give notice of us and say." This David did. This was his custom all the time that he dwelled in the land of the Philistines. Achish believed David, saying, "He has made himself abominable to his people Israel and will be my servant forever." This period in the life of David was morally complex. On one hand, it showed his astuteness and ability to survive in impossible circumstances. On the other hand, it revealed how desperation could lead even a man of God to make questionable decisions. It happened in those days that the Philistines gathered their forces to fight against Israel. As chapter 23 tells us, Achish said to David, "Know understood that you have to go out with me to campaign. You and your men." David responded to Achish, "Very well. You know what your servant will do." Achish said to David, "Therefore, I will make you keeper of my person during all my life." Already Samuel had died, and all Israel had lamented him and had buried him in Ramah, his city. Saul had cast out of the land the enchanters and diviners. They gathered, the Philistines, and came and encamped in Shunem. And Saul, together with all Israel, and encamped in Gilboa. When Saul saw the camp of the Philistines, he had fear, and his heart troubled him in great manner. Saul consulted Jehovah, but Jehovah did not respond to him, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophets. Then Saul said to his servants, "Look for me a woman who has a spirit of divination, so that I may go to her and by means of her ask." His servants responded to him, "Behold, there is a woman in Endor who has a spirit of divination." Saul disguised himself and put other garments and went with 2 men and came to that woman by night. He said, "I beg you that you divine for me by the spirit of divination and make me go up the one whom I shall tell you." The woman responded to him, "Behold, you know what Saul has done, how he has cut off from the land the mediums and the diviners. Why, then, do you put a snare on my life to make me die?" Then Saul swore to her by Jehovah, saying, "Jehovah lives, that no evil will come to you for this." The woman then said, "Whom shall I make go up for you?" He responded, "Make Samuel go up for me." The woman, seeing Samuel, cried out with a high voice and spoke that woman to Saul, saying, "Why have you deceived me? Because you are Saul." The king said to her, "Do not fear. What have you seen?" The woman responded to Saul, "I have seen gods that go up from the earth." He said to her, "What is his form?" She responded, "An elderly man comes covered with a mantle." Saul then understood that it was Samuel, and humbling his face to the ground, made great reverence. Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you troubled me, making me go up?" Saul responded, "I am very anguished, because the Philistines fight against me, and God has departed from me, and does not respond to me anymore, neither by means of prophets nor by dreams. For this I have called you, so that you may declare to me what I have to do." Then Samuel said, "And why do you ask me if Jehovah has departed from you and is your enemy? Jehovah has done as he spoke by means of me, because Jehovah has removed the kingdom from your hand and has given it to your companion, to David, as you did not obey the voice of Jehovah, nor fulfilled the burning of his anger against Amalek. For that Jehovah has done this to you today." Samuel continued with his terrible prophecy. "And Jehovah will deliver Israel also with you into hands of the Philistines. And tomorrow you will be with me, you and your sons. And Jehovah will deliver also the camp of Israel into hands of the Philistines." Then Saul fell to the ground as long as he was, and had great fear because of the words of Samuel, and no strength stayed in him, because in all that day and that night he had not eaten bread. The woman came to Saul and, seeing him troubled in great manner, said to him, "Behold that your servant has obeyed your voice, and have risked my life, and have heard the words that you have said to me." The woman added, "I beg you, well, that you also hear the voice of your servant. I will put before you a morsel of bread, so that you may eat and recover strengths and follow your way." He refused, saying, "I will not eat." But his servants pressing him together with the woman, he obeyed them, got up from the floor and sat on a bed. That woman had in her house a fat calf, which she killed soon, and took flour and kneaded it, and baked from it unleavened bread. She brought it then before Saul and before his servants. And after they had eaten, they got up and went that night. The Philistines gathered all their forces in Aphek, and Israel encamped next to the fountain that is in Jezreel. As chapter 29 tells us, when the princes of the Philistines passed, muster their companies of hundreds and of thousands. David and his men went in the rear guard with Achish. The princes of the Philistines said, "What do these Hebrews here?" Achish responded to the princes of the Philistines, "Is not this David, the servant of Saul, king of Israel, who has been with me days and years, and I have not found fault in him from the day that he passed to me until today?" Then the princes of the Philistines became angry against him and said to him, "Dismiss this man so that he may return to the place that you signaled to him and not come with us to battle, lest in battle he turn enemy to us, because with what thing would he return better to the grace of his Lord than with the heads of these men?" The princes added, "Is not this David of whom they sang in the dances, saying, 'Saul has smitten his thousands and David his tens of thousands'?" Achish called David and said to him, "Jehovah lives, that you have been upright, and that your going out and your entering in the camp with me seems good to me, and that no evil thing I have found in you from the day that you came to me until today. Yet in the eyes of the princes you do not please." Achish continued, "Return, well, and go in peace, so as not to displease the eyes of the princes of the Philistines." David responded to Achish, "What have I done, or what have you found in your servant from the day that I am with you until today, so that I may not go and fight against the enemies of my lord the king?" Achish responded to David, "I know that you are good before my eyes like an angel of God. Yet the princes of the Philistines have said, 'Do not let him come with us to the battle. Get up. Well, early you and the servants of your Lord who have come with you, and getting up early. As soon as you have light, go." David and his men got up early to go and return to the land of the Philistines. And the Philistines went to Jezreel. The providence of God manifested itself even in this rejection. David had seen himself forced into an impossible situation, to fight against his own people or betray the trust of Achish. God resolved the dilemma through the distrust of the Philistine princes. When David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day, the Amalekites had invaded the Negeb and Ziklag, and had desolated Ziklag and had burned it with fire. As chapter 30 tells us, they had taken captive the women and everyone who was there, from the least until the greatest. But they had not put anyone to death, but took them and followed their way. David came, well, with his men to the city, and behold, that it was burned with fire, and their women and their sons and daughters had been taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him raised their voice and wept until their strengths failed them to weep. The two wives of David had also been taken captive, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, who was wife of Nabal, the one of Carmel. David was very anguished because the people spoke of stoning him, because all the people were in bitterness of soul, each one for his sons and for his daughters. Yet David strengthened himself in Jehovah his God. David said to the priest, Abiathar, son of Ahimelech, "I beg you that you bring me the ephod." Abiathar brought the ephod to David, Then David consulted Jehovah, saying, "Shall I pursue this troop? Shall I be able to reach it?" He said to him, "Follow them, because you shall surely reach them, and shall surely deliver the captives." David went, well, he and the 600 men who were with him, and arrived until the torrent of Besor, where some stayed. David followed ahead with 400 men, because 200 stayed behind, who fainted and could not cross the torrent of Besor. They found in the field an Egyptian man, and brought him to David and gave him bread. And he ate, and they gave him water to drink. They gave him also a piece of mass of figs and of raisins. As soon as he ate, his spirit returned into him, because he had not eaten bread nor drunk water in 3 days and 3 nights. David said to him, "Of whom are you, and from where are you?" He responded, "I am a young Egyptian man, servant of an Amalekite man, and my master left me because I got sick 3 days ago. We made an incursion to the part of the Negeb that belongs to the Cherethites, and to the part of Judah, and to the Negeb of Caleb, and we put fire to Ziklag." David said to him, "Will you lead me down to that troop?" He said, "Swear to me, by God, that you will not kill me nor deliver me into hands of my master, and I will lead you down to that people." When he led him down, behold that they were scattered over the face of all that land, eating and drinking and making feast, because of all that great spoil that they had taken from the land of the Philistines and from the land of Judah. David smote them from the dawn until the evening of the next day, and not a single one escaped from them, except 400 young men who mounted on camels and fled. David delivered everything that the Amalekites had taken, and likewise David delivered his 2 wives. Nothing of anything lacked to them, small nor great, as much of sons as of daughters, of the spoil and of all the things that they had taken. Everything David recovered. David took also all the sheep and larger cattle, and bringing this cattle before, they said, "This is the spoil of David." David came to the 200 men who had stayed tired to follow David, whom they had made stay in the torrent of Besor, and they came out to meet David and the people who were with him. When David approached the people, he greeted them with peace. Then all the wicked and perverse of the men who had gone with David responded and said, "For as much as they did not come with us, we will not give to them of the spoil that we have recovered, except to each one his wife and his sons, so that they may take them and go." David responded, "Do not do that. My brothers, with what Jehovah has given to us, who has kept us and has delivered into our hands the troop that came against us, and who will listen to us in this case, because according to the share of the one who descends to the battle, so has to be the share of the one who stays with the baggage. To them it will touch equal share." From that day onward, this was put for law and ordinance in Israel until today. When David arrived at Ziklag, he sent of the spoil to the elders of Judah, his friends, saying, "Behold a present for you from the spoil of the enemies of Jehovah." This victory of David over the Amalekites not only demonstrated his military leadership, but also his wisdom in leadership. His decision of sharing the spoil equally among all his men, even those who had not participated directly in the battle, established a principle of justice that would convert into law in Israel. The Philistines, fought against Israel, and the ones of Israel fled before the Philistines and fell dead in the Mount of Gilboa. As chapter 31 tells us, the Philistines followed Saul and his sons, and the Philistines killed Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua, sons of Saul. The battle pressed hard against Saul, and the archers reached him, and he was wounded gravely by the archers. Then Saul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword, and pierce me through with it, so that these uncircumcised may not come and pierce me through and mock me." Yet his armor-bearer did not want, because he had great fear. Then Saul took his own sword and threw himself upon it. His armor-bearer, seeing Saul dead, he also threw himself upon his sword and died with him. Thus Saul died in that day, together with his 3 sons and his armor-bearer and all his men, the ones of Israel, who were at the side of the valley and at the other side of the Jordan. Seeing that Israel had fled and that Saul and his sons had died, they left the cities and fled, and the Philistines came and dwelled in them. It happened on the following day that the Philistines, coming to despoil the dead, found Saul and his 3 sons stretched out in the mount of Gilboa. They cut off his head and despoiled him of the weapons, and sent messengers through all the land of the Philistines, so that they might carry the good news to the temple of their idols and to the people. They put his weapons in the temple of Ashtaroth, and hung his body on the wall of Beth-shan. Yet hearing the ones of Jabesh of Gilead, this that the Philistines did to Saul, all the valiant men got up and walked all that night, and removed the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Beth-shan. And coming to Jabesh, they burned them there. They took then their bones and buried them under a tree in Jabesh, and fasted 7 days. This final act of the men of Jabesh was profoundly significant. They remembered how Saul, at the beginning of his reign, had saved them from the Ammonites. Now, in his death, they returned the favor to him, risking their lives to give him a dignified burial. The death of Saul marked the tragic end of the first monarchical experiment of Israel, a man who had begun with so much potential, tall, handsome, anointed by God, with the Spirit of the Lord upon him, had ended consulting mediums in the darkness and dying by his own sword in a lost battle. The tragedy of Saul was not only personal, but national. With him died his son, Jonathan, the noble prince who had demonstrated more character than his father, who had loved David and had renounced his rights to the throne for doing the will of God. The death of Jonathan represented one of the most painful losses in all the biblical narrative. The Philistines celebrated their victory, hanging the weapons of Saul in the temple of their gods and exhibiting his body as a trophy. It seemed that the enemies of Israel had triumphed completely. The chosen people found themselves in disorder, without king, with their cities abandoned and occupied by foreigners. But although this was the conclusion of the book of 1 Samuel, it was not the end of the story. Somewhere in the Philistine territory, David was distributing the spoil of his victory over the Amalekites and sending gifts to the cities of Judah. The man, according to the heart of God, was preparing himself to take the throne that God had promised him. The death of Saul was not only the end of a reign, it was the conclusion of an era and the prelude of another. The book of 1 Samuel ends in tragedy, but it is a tragedy that prepares the scenario for the glory that would come. David had learned in the caves and deserts the lessons that would prepare him to be the king that Israel needed. The first book of Samuel teaches us that the call of God does not guarantee automatic success, but that sustained obedience and persevering faith can triumph even over the most adverse circumstances. Saul had begun well, but had failed in keeping his heart aligned with that of God. David had faced years of adversity, but had maintained his integrity and his faith. Thus concludes this extraordinary narrative of transition, where we see how God uses even human tragedies to fulfill his eternal purposes. The king had fallen, but the true king was ready to rise. If this story impacted you, help us to carry it to more people. Subscribe to the channel and activate notifications not to miss it. 2 Samuel, where we will see the coronation of David and his greatest victories and failures. Share this video with someone who needs to hear these stories of faith, valor, and hope. Comment what part impacted you most: the prayer of Hannah, the valor of David, or the tragedy of Saul. The story continues, and you are part of it. See you in the next chapter of this extraordinary biblical adventure. May you have a blessed week, and like David, may you be a person according to the heart of God.